Properly caring for and cleaning your keg is vital to make sure that your beer is at its best each time you brew. It's important that you may need to disassemble it, occasionally at least, to clean out any hop residue or muck which has settled into your nooks and corners of your keg. If not properly cleaned, they may throw off flavors in your beer. It might seem a little intimidating at first for a beginner to open up the keg and change the O-rings, or even just to take it apart. I know of brewers who disassemble their keg after every use. There are brewers who do it once a while, and there are brewers who never have even opened it even once. So each of us have our own reason to dismantle or not to dismantle our keg. The purpose of this video is not to agree or disagree with you, whatever your method is, or not to tell who is right or wrong. The purpose of this video is just to show you how easy it is to disassemble your keg. A keg is a piece of equipment that can easily outlive you. Any machinery that is capable of outliving you deserves to be taken care of. A worn out O-ring in a keg post is enough to leak out your whole CO2 tank or even empty your home brew into the floor, and you can lose your whole beer overnight. Cleaning 20 liters of beer from the floor is not an easy task. Personally, in my experience, yes, I have done it once, and it's not a pleasant experience to see all your beer on the floor, added to the misery of cleaning it just due to a faulty O-ring. In this video, I'll try to give you some simple maintenance tips for your keg. Replace O-rings immediately when you see them loose, disfigured or deformed permanently. It means that it has lost its elastic properties and may not seal your keg properly. It is mandatory you know how to disassemble and repair your keg if you are currently using one, and it's not a complicated job either. You may need a few tools to do this. The usual tool we use is a number 17 ring spanner to loosen the keg post, or 11 by 16 wrench. Both these have a minor practical disadvantage that you need to remove and re-engage it each time to turn the post. So to go around this minor inconvenience, you can use a ratchet ring spanner, which I am using here. This is available online and is quite handy, unlike your regular ring spanner, where you need to take it out and re-engage for turning. You will also need the cleaning solution of your choice. PBW, One Step and OxyClean will all do the trick. Avoid dish soap though, because even small amounts of soap residue can destroy the head on your beer. I have a tray full of my preferred cleaning solution in a steel tray. Do not use chlorine or bleach to clean your keg, as it pits the inside of your keg. To lubricate my O-rings, I use Vaseline lip balm. It's basically petroleum jelly, and since it's a lip balm, I consider it food grade. Using a lubricant will extend the life of the O-rings on your keg, preventing cracks from developing and leaks from occurring. It certainly improves the performance of your keg parts such as O-rings. There are products out there especially to lubricate the O-rings. Most comes in tubes and are quite expensive, but will last many years for a home brewer. If you wish, go for it. Applying lube allows the disconnects to glide over the rubber rings of the keg post. Without the lube, the O-rings may flex out of the grooves or prevent the liquid or gas lines from fully seating. Some of the choices are the following. Keg lube is simply a food grade lubricant. It will help to keep the O-rings pliable and seal the keg. Petrol gel is another lubricant made with an odorless, tasteless, high viscosity index paraffin based oil. It is also impervious to water. If you want something from the pharmacy, then go for petrol gel. It contains mainly liquid paraffin 95% and beeswax 5%. It's used as a laxative and a purgative. Vaseline jelly is made of 100% pure petroleum jelly. It's a blend of mineral oils and waxes. As I told you, since it is applied in the lip, certainly it will be food grade. And we are only going to apply a small quantity in the O-rings. A 7-gram bottle will last you years. Some suggest not to use Vaseline on your rubber gaskets. The petroleum basically eats away the rubber, causing the rubber to stretch or tear sooner than normal. But I still continue using Vaseline, as these O-rings are not expensive and I change them once or twice a year anyways. Nowadays, silicone-based O-rings are available, which needs less maintenance. Personally, I wouldn't break my head over this, but if you're a perfectionist, then go for silicone. We have already spoken about the wrench. If we are planning to change the post O-rings and poppet valves, certainly we will need some spares, and they are not expensive either and is available online. Here I have some spares to show you how I do it. These small rubber O-rings are what basically seals your keg post. So it's important that you have a few spares in hand if you own a keg, as they can fail anytime. The poppet valve O-rings are not changeable. Instead, you will get the poppet stem with the O-ring fixed on it from the stores. The other part is the poppet spring, which rarely needs to be changed. But if you change the poppet stem, you better change the spring also, as they come together as a pair most of the time. The poppet stem and the spring together is called the poppet valve. The next part is the keg lid O-ring, which nowadays come in silicone too, as I told earlier, and so has less need for lubrication compared to rubber O-ring. You would also need a toothbrush and a dip tube cleaning brush. Whenever you are going to open or disassemble a keg, the first and most important step is to vent the keg's pressure from the PRV or the pressure release valve. I personally prefer to remove the PRV, especially during cleaning after I have fermented in the keg. The PRV may get some pop residue in the spring and the poppet, which can impair its function and cause a leak later on. It just takes me a few seconds extra to remove it. I put the PRV in my cleaning tray, usually in the center. It's important to keep the parts systematically in a place so that things won't get mixed up. Once the pressure in the keg has been released, pull up the lever to remove the lid. Many times I see people struggling to get the lid out even after using it for many years. There is a proper method of removing and placing back the lid. And if properly done, you can gracefully remove the lid instead of fidgeting with it. A small tip I would like to offer here is that if you look at the lid has a short part from the PRV and a long part from the PRV. The short part comes out first when you remove the lid, and the long part goes in first when you put it back. When you want to put the lid in, it's the long part that should go in first, and when you want to remove it, it's the short part that should come out first. If you try to insert the lid short end first, it won't go in. That's all about removing and inserting the lid. Let's remove the rubber O-ring in the lid. It looks fine for me, but I am replacing it for demonstration purposes. This is quite a straightforward operation with no complexities at all. Now that you have started to disassemble the keg, you should be aware that there are a total of 13 parts, including the O-rings, dip tubes, poppets, posts and springs, and it's imperative that you arrange them systematically so that you can reassemble them easily. I keep my keg lid, my PRV and lid O-ring in the center of the cleaning tray. I first remove the liquid post from the keg. Wall lock with kegs require a size 7x8 wrench or number 17 spanner, as I told you earlier. You open the keg post by unscrewing counterclockwise, but the arrow shows clockwise direction to turn and lock the ratchet. So you have to use the other side for counterclockwise locking. Remember, counterclockwise for opening or loosening and clockwise for tightening. Just a few turns is enough and you can unscrew the post with your fingers. Take the liquid post out carefully. Your post will contain a poppet stem and a poppet spring. Together they are called the poppet valve. Sometimes only the poppet spring comes out. If the poppet stem is stuck inside the post, just give it a push from the outside like this. Inspect the O-rings on the posts and the poppet O-rings to ensure that they are not damaged They may not seat properly if they are damaged. Posts and O-rings are inexpensive, and replacing damaged ones can save you a lot of money in the form of lost CO2 or beer. I soak them in my cleaning solution. I make sure that I place them in the same side where I removed them to avoid mixing up the liquid and gas posts. Next, remove the liquid dip tube. It's about 23 inches long and goes up to the bottom of the keg and is bent to reach the center. So make sure that when you fix it back, the tip of this tube should be in the center of the bottom part of the keg. Inspect for any damage to the O-ring. If it is squashed or cut, then replace it. This O-ring looks good enough and is tightly fitting on my dipstick. Nevertheless, I will change it for demonstration purposes. For now, leave it in the tray. Next, let's remove the gas post. Use the same ring spanner and turn counterclockwise. Just a few turns and then finger loosen it. The gas post also has a poppet valve just like in the liquid post, which you just removed. The architecture is the same as in the liquid post. Leave them in the cleaning tray in the right side of the keg, the same side you removed it from. You have your liquid post and parts in the left side so that they won't get mixed up. Now let's remove the gas dip tube. Unlike the liquid dip tube, the gas dip tube will be shorter and about 1.5 inches long. It also has a replaceable O-ring which needs to be inspected for damage. Place it along the parts removed from the gas post side. Now you have totally disassembled the keg. If you are replacing the O-rings, do so now. There are 5 total, 2 for the dip tubes, 2 for the posts and 1 for the lid. 3 are not replaceable. Of these, 2 are in the poppets and 1 in the PRV. To replace them, you need to buy the whole poppet kit and the PRV. I really didn't have any problem with this post O-ring in the form of any leak, even though it looks loose. Anyway, I thought of replacing it for demonstration purpose. To remove the old O-ring, I just pinch it so that it protrudes a bit. I insert a blunt instrument into it and pry it out. Some prefer to cut them with a blade or pliers to remove. You can even use a nose plier to pinch it out. To change the O-ring, I take a new one. I apply Vaseline on it. I already told you my logic of using it. Those of you who do not agree, you are free to use whatever lubricant you want. The main thing against Vaseline is that it's a petroleum derivative. The safest bet out there, what they say, is food grade silicone. But again, you should be aware that the hydrocarbons used to make silicone usually come from petroleum. Coming back to our topic, the O-ring is slid in and you can see how the new O-ring is snugly fitting the post. As you see, replacing the post O-ring in the Corny Keg is very simple. The post is put back in the tray, back in its original place. We take the gas post now, pinch it to raise the loose O-ring and use a blunt instrument to lift it out. The procedure is same as that you did for the liquid post. Take the next O-ring and the process is repeated. Put it back in the cleaning tray and you're done. Next, let us look at the gas post and its O-ring. This O-ring looks good. It is not flattened or distorted or loosely fitting. It has no cuts in it either. Anyways, I'm going to change it now. Take the new O-ring. The new O-ring looks thicker than the older one. You just need to slide it in and your O-ring has been changed. Put the post back in its original place in the tray. Now the O-ring of the liquid post can be inspected. This O-ring also looks good. It is not flattened or distorted or loosely fitting. It has no cuts in it either. Anyways, I will change this also. The new O-ring is slid in. And the dipstick is placed back in the cleaning tray. Next, the cap O-ring is changed. I'm using a silicone O-ring here. Even though you need not necessarily apply Vaseline on the silicone, I nevertheless do it. It's placed in the cleaning solution and the old one is discarded. Now we have changed 5 O-rings totally. 2 for the post, 2 for the dipsticks and 1 for the cap. Now let's start reassembling our keg. First part to go in is the long liquid tube. Make sure to clean its inside with a long cleaning brush to remove any gunk or debris. Be cognizant of the bend in the tube as it goes down. Look inside your Corny Keg. Your liquid dip tube should point directly into the center of the Corny Keg. You should see a small indentation in the center in the bottom. This is where your liquid dip tube should point. Once the dip tube is placed, let's screw in the keg post. Now is the best time to replace the poppet valve. Take the new poppet spring and insert the poppet stem inside the narrow end of the spring. And insert it into the keg post. Use a finger to block the spring popping out of the post while placing it. Finger tighten it well. When screwing the post into the keg, this will force the poppet up and snap it into position inside the post. Just make sure that it is centered when screwing the post back into the kit. It is that easy. These posts need not be tightened too much as the O-rings might get damaged. Now let's fix the short dip tube. Place it inside the gas inlet. Here I am placing back the same poppet stem and the poppet spring. The poppet valve is basically the poppet stem along with the spring combined. Just make sure that you center it correctly. Finger tighten it well. Just a few turns is enough, as I told you. Do not use too much force to tighten. Next we put back our PRV. Put the lid back in on the keg by inserting the long end of the lid in the opening sideways. Turn the lid 90 degrees, support the PRV and pull the handle down to lock the lid in place. You have given a complete overhaul and service for your keg now. Do this once a year or twice a year according to usage and you will have a trouble-free keg.